Hello and welcome to the news button. We are nearing the big geopolitical question is this. Why are some of the world's richest, most technologically advanced, and socially sophisticated nations increasingly engaging with India like never before? And at the center of this transformation stands one man, Narendra Modi. From Sweden to Denmark, from Finland to Norway and Iceland, India's ties with the Nordic world have undergone a remarkable strategic transformation in the Modi era. But this is not merely about diplomacy, it's about technology, green energy, Arctic geopolitics, China, supply chains, defense cooperation, and the rise of India as a global balancing power. And the Nordic nations are paying very close attention. The first big reason Modi made India impossible to ignore. For decades, the Nordic countries viewed India primarily as a developing market, an outsourcing destination, or a distant Asian democracy. But under Modi, it has all changed. India has repositioned itself as a major geopolitical power center, whether through the G20 presidency, aggressive economic diplomacy, strategic balancing between global blocs, or India's massive digital transformation. New Delhi began projecting itself not merely as a regional actor but as an emerging global pole, and the Nordic countries respect strength, scale, and strategic clarity. India today offers a massive consumer market, technological talent, geopolitical weight, democratic legitimacy, and strategic autonomy. That combination, that dreadful combination, is extremely attractive to small but highly advanced Nordic states seeking reliable global partners. Then, the China factor, the silent driver behind Nordic interest in India. This is perhaps the most important geopolitical reality. Europe's relationship with China has become increasingly complicated. Concerns have grown over economic dependency, supply chain vulnerabilities, cybersecurity, authoritarian expansion, and strategic coercion. The Nordic countries, especially after Russia's actions in Europe and rising tensions globally, are increasingly focused on resilient democratic partnerships. And India fits that requirement. Unlike China, India is democratic, politically pluralistic, strategically independent, and increasingly economically influential. The Nordic nations increasingly see India as a long term balancing power in Asia that dramatically elevates Modi's geopolitical importance in Nordic capitals. Why Modi's personal diplomacy matters? Now comes the political dimension. Modi's diplomacy is highly leader centric. He invests heavily in summit diplomacy, symbolic gestures, direct leader engagement, and highly visible international outreach. This style itself works particularly well internationally because it creates political visibility and momentum. Nordic leaders may come from quieter political cultures, but they deeply value consistency, strategic predictability, and strong governance. And Modi projects precisely that image, a decisive leader with long term strategic vision. Even critics acknowledge that under Modi, India's foreign policy messaging became sharper, more confident, and far more globally visible. Another big reason, green energy. The Modi Nordic convergence happens to be in the realm of green energy. Now, here is where the relationship becomes extremely strategic. The Nordic countries are global leaders in clean technology, sustainability, green mobility, energy innovation, smart infrastructure, and climate engineering. India, meanwhile, represents scale, manufacturing demand, urbanization, and one of the world's largest future clean energy markets. This creates enormous synergy. Under Modi, India aggressively expanded renewable energy ambitions, solar infrastructure, green hydrogen plants, EV ecosystems, and sustainability partnerships. This well aligns almost perfectly with Nordic technological strengths. For Nordic companies, India is not merely a market, it is potentially the world's largest long term green transition opportunity. The next big reason, the tech connection. India's digital rise has changed Nordic perceptions completely. The Nordic nations are highly technology driven societies, and India's digital transformation under Modi dramatically altered how the region views India. Initiatives involving digital payments, Aadhaar linked systems, startup growth, fintech expansion, semiconductor ambitions of India, and AI ecosystems have strengthened India's image as a serious technological power. And the Nordic countries like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, they increasingly see India not merely as low cost labor, but as a future innovation partner. That is a major psychological shift. Next big reason, defense cooperation. The Sweden factor. The Nordic India relationship is no longer only economic, it is increasingly strategic. Saab has aggressively pursued defense cooperation with India, especially around the Gripen fighter proposal. Nordic defense firms increasingly view India as a massive defense market, a co development partner, and a strategic Indo Pacific actor. And with Europe rearming after the Ukraine conflict, Nordic defense diplomacy has gained new importance. India is no longer viewed from the sidelines, it is becoming part of a broader European strategic calculation. Next, the civilizational factor. Why Modi's cultural messaging resonates? Now, this is often underestimated. Modi projects India not merely as an economy, but as a civilizational state with 1,000 years of legacy. His messaging combines heritage, spirituality, democratic continuity, and national confidence. Nordic societies, despite being ultra modern, often admire cultures with strong civilizational identity and social cohesion. India under Modi increasingly presents itself not apologetically but confidently. That changes how global elites perceive the country. Nordic societies place strong emphasis on liberal democratic values and social transparency. So, while governments pursue strategic engagement with India, debates around values and governance still exist in parts of the Nordic political discourse. But here is the crucial reality: geopolitical interests are increasingly outweighing ideological discomfort. And that is the real strategic shift. India has come a long way. It is a big global power which the Nordic nations would ignore at their own cost. So, what is the final verdict? Modi vows the Nordics because he represents a rising India they cannot ignore. This is the central truth. The Nordic countries are pragmatic, technologically advanced, and strategically intelligent nations. They see China becoming riskier, global supply chains fragmenting, energy systems transforming, and geopolitical power shifting towards Asia. And in that changing world, India under Modi increasingly appears stable, ambitious, strategically autonomous, economically scalable, and geopolitically indispensable. That is why Modi attracts attention in Nordic capitals. Not merely because of personality, not merely because of diplomacy, but because he symbolizes the rise of a new India. One that the Nordic world increasingly see not as a peripheral state, but as a future pillar of the global order. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Before leaving, leave your comments in the comment section. And do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Thanks for watching.